Hey guys, Sullivan here in Philadelphia. Well, I had intended for this to be a tour, a lap, but it is so windy today, and the plastic that we're using to plastic sheet mulch that we're using to kill the weedy grass is blowing around everywhere, and it's making it basically impossible. So I set out to do this yesterday, and thanks to aviation safety updates, I wasn't allowed to fly my own drone in my own yard. So, it's like the weather and technology are conspiring for the tour to be next week. But I did get about half, maybe a little more than half of the anemones and ranunculus planted out. So I will share with you guys the planting process for that, which was super easy because, as you saw when we started them, I started the ranunculus in small plug cells, and the anemones are even easier to plant. So let's take a quick look at that. I just used my dibbler, or if I hit an area that was a little bit, I have a major onion grass problem going. And so I just used the dibbler for just punching holes, which I have to say in the no-dig beds was really, really convenient. The top 6 inches or so of everything is so light and fluffy, and nothing needs to go too deep. The other thing I got done this week is I started cleanup. We used pine straw mulch on, I'll show you a couple of the beds that are looking good. And but the pine straw mulch turns into kind of like a mat. And so by using like a flexible rake, I was able to unearth a lot of the bulbs that I planted. So it does look like everything's waking up. I've seen a few posts from people on Instagram about sharing less than perfect imagery, and maybe it's because my garden has been covered in black plastic, like half of it's been covered in black plastic for 6 months. I think you gotta find the small victories in the things that are growing and not worry about being some television show version of a garden. Those gardens are maintained by teams of people. Most of us, if we're lucky, have a partner to help with the gardening, but my husband is busy working, and I'm still on my pandemic sabbatical, and it's on me to get this stuff done. So if I waited till everything looked perfect to share photos, I'd see you guys in 5 years. It's just not gonna be perfect. Most people don't have a team of gardeners to make everything look perfect. And I just think I would rather have a garden that reflects the amount of time and effort that I can put into it, rather than presenting some unrealistic worldview of unlimited funds, unlimited staff, unlimited, free plants, free supplies, etc. So, I was messaging with one Instagrammer, and it's just like, don't be so hard on yourself. That person already exists. You be you. Be who you are. And, I've been doing messy projects and weddings and flowers for a long time. And if I treat this garden renovation like a 3-year version of a wedding that I'm setting up, we're in the middle of the day. We usually have 6 to 8 hours to set up a big installation, and the middle part of the day, when you sit down and you look at everything and you're hopefully taking a lunch break, it looks terrifyingly bad. Like, it's the moment where you hope the client doesn't come in. It's a disaster. There's stuff everywhere. Nobody's cleaned up trash yet. You're probably in the middle of finishing up the biggest, hardest project, which means the most mess, the most trash. And then after you're rested and hopefully had a lunch break and able to keep going, it comes together, and it comes together so quickly. And look, I have a wheelbarrow behind me. I have a giant bin of debris behind me. It doesn't take away from how pretty this little bed that I added a bunch of ranunculus to, it doesn't take away from that to me. It reflects the reality that that's how much debris came out of these beds that isn't usable as pine straw mulch and weeds. One of the things that I'm trying to figure out, and you guys will have to let me know if you're interested in this, is I'd like to do my tours in real time. I'd like to do them live. I just think would be so much more fun and interesting to be able to walk around and take questions or just like follow things along. So I don't know if that's for now, once a month, and then once things get going every 2 weeks. But I'm working on gathering some equipment so we have decent sound, stable camera, and, you know, strong enough Wi-Fi everywhere that we can go out and look at things, because as this stuff all comes together, I think it's going to be really beautiful. And the tours they're a lot to film. They're a lot to edit. They tend to be really long. And I'd like to be able to bring you guys more along on the process. And that means sharing some of the messes. So today was going to be an attempt at kind of doing it with a little less editing, but I just think the wind is going to make filming in the big gardens really hard. So we'll just kind of look at the couple places where I have a lot of the ranunculus, iris, many things that I planted last year are starting to look good. And we have to name these gardens, but it's kind of like the woodland shade garden that is part sun, full sun, part shade, full shade. It's like a lot of things. So calling it the woodland shade garden doesn't make a lot of sense because it truly does have some sunny pockets. But there's so much stuff coming up. It's going to be really fun around here. And to me, it seems a shame not to share it with you guys because it's looking messy. I don't know a lot of gardens that don't look messy after winter, especially if you do the style of gardening that I think a lot of people favor, which is leaving some of the debris and some of the seed heads and some of the spent flowers and the dried grasses and things for wildlife. I mean, my landscape's pretty bare if I don't leave those things, but also I would rather do the cleanup in the spring and again try to leave as much of it as possible. So I have put anemones absolutely everywhere. So I have them in my planters, even though there's nothing else in the planters except a few pansies and more anemones than any person could possibly need. If you have followed my channel for any length of time, you are possibly familiar with this area. I have done a lot of detailed drawings. Oh, the wind blew my giant clematis over. So that's a clematis. This is apple blossom clematis, and it is a climber that doesn't, it needs support. And because the fence was new and we weren't sure what was going on, I had used some stakes, and now I think I'm gonna have to attach maybe just some small nails and wires along the top of the fence to give it something to climb on. So let's see. There's so much in this bed already, and I just added a ton of anemones and ranunculus. So we have a bunch of daffodils and tulips starting. We have anemones, lots and lots of iris, some fairly young roses, penstemon, foxglove, one of my very favorite plants, Southern Charm verbascum. That's this stalk here. It can be a tender perennial, but I think some of it's gonna come back, and I grow it from seed, and I think I am gonna get a few more. It will be amazing when these roses start to fill in. This is what herbaceous peonies look like when they start pushing out new growth. That is pastel elegance. This is a brand new one called New Dimension, which is a single cupped petal, and I probably will need to pull it up. It seems to have settled here. They can't be buried too deep. You can go check out some of the peony videos, but I'll do a video next week on spring peony care. Lots of ranunculus. These heuchera are the right color for this bed. It's just the bed got bigger, so they need to just it would be amazing if plants could just use their roots as legs and walk over 1.5 feet where they need to. All the anemones are so, or these are anemones. They are so happy to be out of those trays. They will start pushing bloom stalks this week because the weather's like their favorite temperature. It's like 40s at night, 50s during the day. These are a bunch of unnamed iris that I relocated from in front of the office, and they look really happy in this new spot. I just peeled back some bark on the smoke tree to make sure it was still alive. That had a rough couple of moves. But yeah, there's just so much stuff coming up. This is where a lot of bulb planting happened. I think I lost a few roses here. I did trim them back, and I will fertilize in here, but if they don't come back, I kind of know why. I left them in a storage tub for far too long. But yeah, there are so many different bulbs planted in here, between tulips, daffodils. I haven't done a lot of cleanup on the hellebore. So if you're just finding me today, I'm in Philadelphia, Zone 7A, and we've had a lot of very warm Februarys the last few years, but this year we had a real February with lots of snow and very, very cold temperatures. So all the hellebores are about 3 to 4 weeks later than last year, but the bloom stalks are all pushing up. And I think we'll do a separate hellebore video, but yeah, I haven't wanted to mess with them too much because they were just under so much snow cover, and I just wanted to give them a chance to really wake up. But there's a lot of really pretty stuff to look forward to in here. These are a lot of amber colored, or they should be if I didn't mix up the plugs. And then this is like a yellow Picotee Ranunculus, some kind of peachy, warm-toned daffodils, and then things start to shift. There's like a lot more mauve. Oh, why am I telling you this? I'll just put up the picture of all the plants that are going in here. And then here, because my neighbor's Chinese elm tree leaves out. It leaves out a little later. It also holds its leaves longer. This bed under the tree line, or under the drip line of the Chinese elm, is fully shade. So I have, this is a purple epimedium, more hellebores, hyacinths. I had an allergic reaction to the hyacinth bulbs, so it's nice to know they're there, but I'm kind of irritated with them still. I guess, pun intended. I have a lot of plans for this area, which is very exciting. I mentioned onion grass. It's like the bane of my existence here. It's so difficult to get, and there's so many bulbs planted everywhere that I don't want to pull the bulbs up. But you kind of need to dig down and get the full onion bulb clump. So I'll start dealing with that. There's Ivory Prince, hellebore. Looks good. It was blooming before the snow, so the foliage got knocked around a little bit. I love dark colors. So some of these, a lot of these are the established ones that I had from before that I just relocated. Yeah, that's why you shouldn't pull the onion grass. You need to get down there. Oh, it's gonna be a lot of weeding. A lot of onion grass. So I don't use any chemical weed removers. And maybe to protect my bulbs and plants, I'm gonna need to just let everything go and just, pull it for now and let it come back, because this is just gonna be, I don't want to hurt all my young plants that I have spent all this time working on. I have a ton of bare root astilbe that I'm working on planting, but let's keep looking at hellebore. So yeah, this is all onion grass. But this is one of my older hellebores. So you can see it's a really big clump. That will be pretty in a few weeks. Some of these got a little damaged, I think, in the snow, but in a few more weeks they'll be looking great. And again, like the clematis, these are 3 climbing hydrangeas. They need a little cleanup, and then I'll have to stake them. This will sucker onto the fence, which I'm not sure we're ready for. We're still talking about staining the fence a darker color, so we shall see. All right, but yeah, we'll come back and do a hellebore video soon, because all of this will start to transform, and then I can start adding in, I have about 30 to 40 bare root astilbes to add into here, a bunch of autumn anemones, and a lot of the stuff you see on the plant plan for this. This is outside my office. So I know everybody on YouTube favors the collapsible pop-up round buckets, but I like this Martha Stewart giant bag. I ripped the handles off of my kangaroo bags like almost immediately, so I have these now. They get kind of heavy, but there's no way you're ripping the handles off of those. Everything here is kind of warm tones with a little bit of smoky purple, so this should be really pretty. I went through here, cleaned up. There's creeping Jenny ground cover in here, but it did not look like it had a good winter, so I pulled a lot of it back. And I'll probably never get rid of it, but it's a good color for here. It's just it doesn't look good with the pine needles. And then alliums and stuff already coming up. So that was partially why I wanted to wait on planting the anemones and ranunculus, is I didn't want to dig up my bulbs in the process. And I know I could have planted them in the fall, I just wasn't ready. This is the woodland full sun, full shade, part sun. So calling it a shade garden doesn't make a whole lot of sense, since up here is basically full sun. Lots of fun bulbs in here. I did muscari, squill, anemones, no ranunculus, I don't think, in this bed. There's an older peony, one of the white ones I really love called Bowl of Cream that's in there. And then all through here comes the wind. Yeah, this is why we're not doing a full tour, guys. Sorry. All through here, there's a couple of Sun King Aralias that'll come back, pagoda dogwood. I have bare root anemones. I have bare root astilbe plants that I just put in. And I don't know if I mentioned, but I'm making every effort to buy bare root or landscape sized plants, so smaller plugs, smaller things that need a little more growing on, just because the pandemic has affected my budget so severely, and I have to cover certain areas or they're just going to get weedy and overgrown again. So I have 2 different astilbes in here. One is called Milk and Honey, which gets to be, the bloom stalks are about 30 inches and it has that really lovely ferny texture. And the other one is a Peach Blossom, which is a little bit shorter. And I think they're just gonna look fabulous. They're kind of drifted in here. That's an epimedium called Domino that gets like a faint pinky tone to it. So there's like, I really work on layering. I think if you're new here, I'm a floral designer, so I really think about how things are going to layer, look through. I want my beds to feel like a floral arrangement. It's how I do my planters as well. So I think in keeping with heights and texture and things like that, I think the Astilbe is going to be a really great addition in here. And then I also have lots of fall anemones to go in here. This is the last of my loropetalums. I don't think this one is for me. They were very reasonably priced, but it's always sad to lose a plant. In addition to adding in Astilbe all through here, so I put about, I want to say maybe 40 bare root pieces. I'm looking for the right additional camellia to add in here. Ferns, shade-loving hydrangea, more hellebore, and then just tons of bulbs. I probably forgot to say, but if there was a color scheme happening in this bed, it's fairly neutral. Things have a hint of blue, a hint of gray, a hint of cream, a hint of peach. All of the bearded iris that are in here have some really lovely hints of blue. And then I just saw, let's find one in the shade. The first of the little squill coming up. Now, the bulb supplier that I got these from, Dutch Grown, says that they're about 8 inches tall. So I gotta say, this is a little shorter than I thought it was gonna be. And then there's also, so this is the squill, and then there's Muscari, a blue mix Muscari. And the daffodils in here are all white. So I think it should be a pretty mix of texture, and because it's particularly shady in here, once this maple leaves out and we have the white pine, this is truly a shady area. Or, it gets like a filtered sun. Or I don't know. There's so many different ways to describe it, but the Astilbe should do fine here because they get enough sun that they will bloom without getting scorched. But by removing all of this pine straw, and I'm kind of using it back there to start to level out the line at the fence, the bulbs were all being like swamped by the pine straw. So it really needed to come out. I did leave some around the anemones just to protect them in case we get a few cold nights, but more epimediums. There's more Astilbe drifting through here. Some Deutzia. Some of the fall poppies that we planted, the oriental poppies. I think these two areas are going to be really, really beautiful. And then the holiday stuff, the holiday decorating on the front of the house tends to really flatten this bed because I'm kind of running around with ladders. But also, this bed is now much more shady than it was a few years ago. So it's going to need to be completely reworked to more part shade plants, which is fine. It'll be fun to redo it now that I know a little bit more about gardening and plants that I favor and the sun conditions. Very excited about this bed. This is one of the ones that came together really, really in a lovely way. It wasn't a challenge to find the plants. The colors all kind of work together. And if you're curious about, I know lots of people are interested in all my branches and chunks of wood and things. I used these in a holiday decorating project many years ago, and I put this one down, and it actually is the support for the peony that's in here. So I had used it for another peony support, but basically the branches grow up. If the bloom stalks need a little support, I can just kind of run some string or twine between the limbs, and it helps support it. But I think that's going to conclude today's visit because it's so windy. I'm freezing. It's warm in the sun, but the wind is very cold. Alright, so one last visit to this peony, which I am most excited about. Last year it was a new root, and it had the most gorgeous foliage but no flowers. But this year it looks like we're gonna get at least a bloom, if not one, possibly 2 to 3. So I think it comes up kind of early, I think, because it gets reflected heat from our walkway and also from the planter that's behind it. But we will be sure to put this one on Peony Watch because I am most excited to see this variety. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Sorry we couldn't do a full tour today. I promise there's a lot to look forward to. Just these 2 little areas are kind of like, I guess, a sneak peek at all the stuff that's to come. I am really super excited to I feel like this year it really is gonna start to really take shape, and then hopefully next season is just like a lot of like finishing touches. So yeah, so don't, if you're in the middle of a big project, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just get done what you can get done. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe. The cats and I really do appreciate it. With the pandemic shutdown, I am relying on YouTube for my only source of income for this year. So I do appreciate it. So send the channel to a flower-loving friend. I really look forward to these live tours. If that's something you're interested in, please let me know below. And then let's think about maybe, YouTube tells me that Saturdays around midday are a good time for that, and obviously if you can't watch it live, it's still going to be up on the channel. So you can come check me out on Instagram at Sullivan_Owen. I am trying to do a really good job of taking photos now so that we can look at how things start to transform, and I just hope everybody's taking care of themselves, their family, their mental health, and taking time to appreciate how lucky all of us that garden are, and just take a second to feel grateful that we have all of this to look forward to. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you soon.